open your eyes.
How to cultivate trust.
You know, this is what the whole system's for. To stabilize such a profound depth of consciousness that you feel secure. You know, we're always looking externally to feel safe, but it's transient. Everything changes, and the only way is to cultivate an experience, to find something permanent. So we keep going in, going in, going in, and of course our heads jump because we don't trust in things we can't see. We don't trust in things that are not completely tangible or concrete. But once we make this so solid, we feel so secure. And we start to walk throughout our fears. And as each fear drops, the love grows. And the love grows. And the love grows. And it becomes a force. It's so secure. And the more the force grows, the more the image drops. The more the ego leaves. And you find your true essence. And you start to love that essence. That authenticity. That perfection of who you are. And that becomes your strength. Your divinity. And you know that that's eternal. But it's a process to get to that point. And it's natural to doubt. It's natural to question things. But always have the disposition to trust. Even if you have to push yourself. Because trust's like a muscle. We created such a contracted experience of trust that we don't trust anyone. We don't even trust ourselves or menace ourselves. That's why we're always asking someone else. But when you start to genuinely trust in yourself, because you're empowered, because you feel secure, everything starts to reflect that. And that's when you start to realise, oh, it's a mirror. Oh, that's me, it's me, it's me. So it's a process. You know, when you're a kid, you trusted. You're born trusting. You always created exactly what you needed. And then you started to create fear. But we're reverting the process. And you're going to have an experience of authenticity, peace, love, within your mature experience. But you know, that's why you're here for 6 months. Not for a week. To stabilise that. And this is why I say to you, you know, some of you say, oh, I'm feeling good. After 2 months. Sure. But it's not okay just to feel good. Because that's transient too. You have to be stable. You have to have something really secure. And that takes at least 6 months. So don't move and then be comfortable. Keep going. Keep giving to yourselves. And stop questioning everything. You know, you guys all learnt the first portal. All of the answers are in that. It's as if you didn't listen to it. If you don't feel expanded, you're moving stress. It's simple. But you want all these reasons. because something's a little bit different. And the minute you start questioning everything, especially within this process, because you're moving so much, the minute you start questioning everything, what happens? The ego has got you back in your head. How do you grow? Here now. Here now. Offering everything back to the consciousness. Trusting. Listening to the teachers. Opening to receive. Because all the things that really impede your expansion are the things you negate the most. The things you don't want to look at. The minute you say, I'm not like that, you need to understand, you can be absolutely positive that that's exactly how you are. Because the bigger the defense, the blinder the spot. Oh, I'm like this. But not like that. Sorry. And see that too. Where the ego has the biggest resistance, it's the blindest spot. So just keep saying yes. And moving. And you know, at some point, all your stresses will take you back to a past moment. And then you go, oh, now I remember why I'm like that, why I don't trust, why I don't feel good enough, why I think there's something wrong. Oh, now I remember. Because it'll be clear. But the only way to find all of this is to go in and receive what's coming externally as a gift instead of fighting against it or avoiding it. Open and remember why you came. Why did I come? I came to heal myself. Did you come to be right? Did you come to have a party? Did you come to eat health food? No, you came here to find freedom. Internal freedom. And don't lose sight of that. Don't waste time fighting with yourself or fighting with us. Just say yes. Surrender. Surrender. That's the most powerful word.
Good afternoon. I would like you to talk about what signs, signals I have to start feeling to know that I'm in permanent joy and not to have that you say, feeling well one day or just sparkles of it.
You know, you've got to stop attaching to an experience. When you're in permanent joy, you won't even have a question. Like it's like you're still looking for something. And you just need to be. And embrace yourself in everything. When you start to experience higher levels of consciousness, that feeling will be more constant. But you've got to stop looking for an experience because you're limiting yourself. I want to be in joy. Stop wanting to be anything because your personality's attached. Just be. Just be. And love that. And once you do that, the joy will come because you're loving yourself. You know, consciousness is like effervescent bubbles. It starts to bubble out of you. like a child. You're just joyful for no specific reason. Stop searching for why or when or how. It's just like that.
How to cultivate omniscience?
Well, it's a byproduct of consciousness. You don't cultivate it. Well, on some level you do. Because when you start speaking your truth, it starts coming from this clean energy. And when you start letting go of the fear and you become more empty, everything starts to come. You know, everyone has the source of all omniscience. But everything moves through so much stress, and our windows of perception, that we're not trusting. And this is why we're getting you to do support of each other. So you start to hear your clarity. Your clarity. And as you go into different levels of consciousness, you start to understand. You know, when you first listen to me, I might as well be talking Chinese. It's like, what is she talking about? But as you go in, you start to see things for yourself. And it starts to resonate. You know, until you wake up, you won't have a clear understanding. But you're going to have sparks of understanding. And when you talk, when you give reflections, it comes from a completely different space. It comes from a place of consciousness, not from your head, not because of a program or giving advice. It comes from here, because it's your experience. And when you listen to each other's expression, you start to see this. Sometimes you'll say something and it has such a purity. It just comes and you go, ooh, that was good. Ooh, did I say that? Was that me? Whoa. And that's when you see it, no? Because you're not trying to be intelligent. You're not trying to fix the other person. You're not trying to be their counselor. You're giving from your heart. And it has a very precise energy. It's very clear when people are speaking truth. The energy, it can cut through anything. Even if you don't understand it, it has such an energy that it touches, no? It's like, oh, I don't know what that means, but it's like that. You know, I remember when I was a tiny little kid. I remember something very clearly. Now, my Nana was the greatest thing in my life, no? I was always with Nana. Now, Nana was very rigid, very Scottish, very racist, very homophobic, very everything, really. You know, she was like a full-on Republican. And not that that's bad, but I'm trying to give you an example of how she was. And my mother was the exact opposite. She was almost communist, you know. Anyway, my Nana, everything was black and white. It was like that, and it was like that, and that was it, and there was nothing else. Anyway, one day, and she used to run everywhere, no? She used to walk like this. And I was a little kid, and she'd be like... And I remember once, we went past these group of Hare Krishnas. Okay, and I was a little kid. So I'm like, Hare, 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 because I liked the music, no? I didn't have a clue who they were. And I don't know, she must have lost sight of me. She was probably running ahead. And here I am like, and she came running back. And she grabbed me. She said, "Don't look at those freaky people. They think that they're the center of the universe. They think that everything exists because they exist." And I thought, oh, that sounds about right. And I was this big. And I thought, oh, they're right. And then I got dragged off, no? But I don't know, throughout your life, if you're here, there must have been moments where you experienced consciousness or you heard something and it went like this. Oh, I'm sure most of you have had that at some point. Could be anywhere. Could be from anyone. But it does this. Because all humans know the truth, know the greatness of who they are. Obviously the ego and the this and the that covers everything. But the core of our being, we know. We know who we are. We know that we're God. We know that we're everything. And we know that this isn't real. At the core of our being. Our heads might be saying, no, 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 no. Even here, I'm sure you a lot of debates and it can't be like that and da-da-da-da-da and da-da-da-da. But it's somewhere. Everyone's looking for God. Everyone. Or looking for themselves. So that energy that touches you, that truth, it negates the head. It makes it go, phoom, just for a second. Then it activates it. No, that's not true. It's about, how can you say that? How arrogant, how ridiculous. Nana was right. You know, ba, 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 ba. But that moment is when you're touching on your own omniscience, your own truth. So the more you go in, the quicker this will emerge. And that's where the power is. That's where the freedom is. That's where the security is. And ironically, it's within the emptiness. So you have to open to that. Because that's the truth. And of course you have to find it for yourself, no? Doesn't matter what I say. You have to have your own experience. Because that's the only thing important.
I want to know a bit more about the stress or the stresses, the root stresses. How do we know when we are moving a root stress?
You know, I don't think it's very important. It's not like you're pulling a tooth, no? You don't need to know if it's the root. But the thing is, the root stress of all humanity is the same. Separation from innocence, separation from God, separation from self, the creation of fear. So whatever creates that will be very clear, because it will be one of those circles that have haunted you all your life. It will be your biggest fear. And you'll remember. And it could be sparked by something so small, but so impacting, because children are so sensitive. It could be something so stupid, but in that moment, you lost your innocence. You lost that trust. You lost that internal security. And that's when you started to create fear. So it's not so much about knowing, because you might not know. Or maybe you will. You know, I remember mine clearly. And it made no sense. But I remember it. And it was, I remember closing. That was it. Don't trust anyone. I'm not open to be loved. Except for Nana, no? Hare Hare, Hare Hare.
Very often happens that little situations takes me away from my experience of consciousness. I go to my head and I start processing, or I think that I'm processing what I'm feeling. And it's hard to feel. Or connect with the emotion. How can I flow more with emotion?
Okay, but you've just got to keep using the facets. You know, no, it's like when you go sifting through the rubbish. And this is one of the principal things in the first portal. When we teach it, we say don't go looking through the rubbish. Just throw it out. But humans always want to understand everything. Why? Because it gives them control. Or gives them the illusion of control. If I understand, I have power. But it's not true. Because none of it's important. The quicker you just let it go, and you don't analyze it, the quicker you'll connect. And it's also a way to not connect. Humans love that. As soon as you start fanaticizing about something, you have to be clear. You are moving stress. You are avoiding yourself. And you have to catch it. Oh, I want chocolate, I want chocolate, I want chocolate. Oh, I want sex, I want sex, I want sex. Oh, I want to watch Netflix, I want to watch Netflix, I want to watch Netflix. There's always something. I have to ring my attachment. I have to fight. And catch it. Catch your addictions. And it's always this, like, you've just got to see it. I need to understand, I need to understand, I need to understand, I need to understand. But you don't need to understand. You just need to let it go. Be innocent. Connect with the emotion. Go and express. Stop protecting yourself. Because you're protecting such a small thing. You're protecting this tiny little thing that's a personality. And it's not even real. And because you're protecting this with such an intensity, you're not experiencing this. And this is another thing you have to remember. I'm holding on to rocks. Just drop them and open to receive something much bigger. I know these are Isha cliches, but I don't care. Until you get it, I'm going to keep repeating, 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 and repeating. Because sometimes it takes a while to sink in, no? Yeah.
Can you talk about the roaring silence?
Sure. You know, when we have so much internal consciousness and we go so deep, it becomes loud. It's the emptiness within the silence. It's like the wind in a cave, no? if you sit there and you can't actually tell it's the wind, but it makes this noise, which isn't really even a noise. It's an energetic movement. It's almost like the hum of the Om. The hum of the Om. It's like this and it's not titanatus, it's a sound of consciousness. But it's not a sound. But it becomes loud. And it's a beautiful thing. You just sit there. And this becomes unimportant. And when you're starting to experience this, you're experiencing everything within you. I know some of you have had glimpses of this. You know, when you're in the testiwando, in the witnessing, you'll start to expand so much and you'll realize that all the sounds are within your consciousness and your body will start to dissolve and there'll just be this sound and the waves will be coming closer and closer and closer. And I know a lot of you must have experienced that, even just for a moment. You know, if I close my eyes, I disappear. But everything disappears. And I know everything's within my consciousness. And this will happen to you too. Because everything's energy. And everything's energy. It all unifies, no? It unifies.
Can you talk about the destruction of the ignorance? What do you mean by ignorance?
Well, when I talk about ignorance, I'm talking about fear. And that's my job. My job is to show you what you're not. You have to find who you are. So I see something or I feel something and I go for that. I reflect on that. And it might be something you can't see. But this is the highest form of compassion. And it's because I know myself so well, I see you clearly, even when you cannot see. And it's the highest form of compassion that sees the perfection in everything. And it's showing you what you're not. What's fear? What's illusion? That which you're not. And bit by bit, the ego starts to crumble. And when I talk about the ego, it's just an illusion. It's not even something real. It's just something you created that's so fragile and so unreal that when it starts to touch on reality and reality starts to touch it, which the facets do as well, it just starts to fall. So we're not taking anything from you because it's not real. And you're finding something real. We're not giving you anything either. You're just finding something real. Because that which isn't real has fallen. You know, it's like what Michelangelo said. They said, you know, how did you do the David? And he said, I didn't do anything. He said, the David was always there. I just removed what wasn't real. And David emerged. And it's the same thing with this.
I want to ask you the difference in between submission and the flow. How can we see?
A flow comes from joy. Submission's like this. Okay. All right. Whatever you want. Flow is joyful. And it's very clear. It's a surrender. a flow, is surrender. And it comes from joy. This is why you must learn to surrender. Because once you learn to surrender from joy, the ego is so fragile. It just starts to see how insignificant it was. It's so important to surrender. Because when you want to control, you cling to anything. But it's just an energy. You might even cling to something ludicrous. You know, I give you an example. We put you into these rooms. And when you have to move to an absolutely identical room, it's not that one's the luxury room and one's the dungeon. No, but you're like this. No, I don't want to move. I like it here. And then you move to that room and we say you have to move again. No, I don't want to move. I like it here. And it's so ridiculous. Or your mat's in a certain place. And if you think about it rationally, what bloody difference does it make? You're there with your eyes closed. It doesn't matter if you've got the view of the ocean. It's just, that's a bigger illusion. Do you see what I'm saying? But I cling to it. Because it defines me. My control. And this is how crazy we are. Crazy. My control. And then if you have to move, instead of moving like this, Hare, 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 no, you're like, that's submission. And then you go and move it, and then you're happy again, and then you flow. So every time you don't flow, and you're submissive, it's because you're moving stress. Yeah? That's it. Goodbye.
Come visit our webpage for books, movies, and our wonderful retreat centers. Isha's simple yet powerful system is transforming lives around the world.